When did you know that there was going to be an onside kick in Super Bowl 44? When did you know that it was going to happen?
What's going on? It's your boy Grunt, and welcome to another episode of Grunt Talk Saints. And today we are joined by a special guest, Saints Hall of Famer and Super Bowl 44 champion, Lance Moore.
In the red zone, Breeze with time, and Lance Moore, and another New Orleans touchdown.
And Breeze to the end zone into traffic, touchdown to Lance Moore.
And gutsy catch, Al. Watch this. He knows. You go in there with Troy Polamalu, you know what's coming.
And we will be chopping it up about the offense. Everything that's wrong with the offense, from the long field to the red zone, and everything in between, from players to coaching to the fans' perception of everything going wrong. We have a lot to talk about, but oh yeah, let's not forget, I'll also be picking his brain about the onside kick in Super Bowl 44. Exactly how long did Lance know about the kick? What was the halftime speech like? What was the energy like coming onto the field after halftime, knowing what was about to go down? Now let's get into it. I just can't wait.
These little demons living underneath my bed creeping. Know the real monster lives above them all sleeping. That subtle breathing in your closet every single evening. Thought you never see me again, looks can be deceiving. When they hear the sound of the drum, they'll be saying, oh Lord, here they come. Yeah, here we come.
What's going on? It's your boy Grunt, and welcome to another episode of Grunt Talk Saints, where it's your boy Grunt, and I talk about the Saints. And today we have a special guest, as you know. Look, Saints legend, Lance Moore. Welcome, man. What's been going on, man? What you been up to lately?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me. What's been happening, dad mode first and foremost, as well as preparing for a short week, coming off of a tough loss against the Texans and kind of digesting, moving forward onto another game plan, another tough opponent. We're banged up at a bunch of different positions, but figure out a way to win, figure out what you can do to exploit their weaknesses and make sure that we come out of this game with a win. Because I think as low as the NFC South looks like it's going to be again, as far as, teams not having great records, there's an opportunity for us in this game to kind of, jump back up and potentially be, close to the first place in the division with a win. So, hoping that our guys get it figured out, and I'll be there live and in person, doing my thing with WDSU. So looking forward to that game, and hopefully it'll be our best game yet.
Yeah, and I think especially going into this one, you're coming off a huge win against the Patriots, 34-0. I think this week kind of showed us more. I think it just showed us that the Patriots are that bad versus we've grown, I think, offensively. And, I know we spoke briefly about how it's the red zone, right? We're talking about whether it's the full field or it's the red zone, right? And I think there's been a lot of miscommunication in terms of Derek Carr maybe not having that type of chemistry with the receivers in the red zone. You're either playing for 3 yards or you're playing for 30 as you sniff the red zone. So where do you think, as a player, how do you respond to that, to problems in the red zone, right? You're a receiver, you're only playing one position, but what type of talks go down? Like, what's usually the big friction point there whenever you see this type of problem?
Well, I'm not in that locker room or in those meeting rooms, so I can't tell you specifically, but from an outsider's standpoint, I think that you can't see the ball move between the 20s the way that it does and how it did specifically against the Texans. We didn't have any problem moving the football. And then once we got in the red zone, we just couldn't figure it out. So you can't see those two things together and not be frustrated. But to that, it's harder to move the ball in the red zone. You don't have as much space. Things happen way faster. If your protection isn't on point, if you don't even really try to run the football very much down there, so the defense knows, well, we're just going to play coverage here because we know they're not going to try to run the football. It makes your job much harder. But then you add to that, which is something that I've kind of noticed could be part of the problem, is I think we might have too many red zone plays that we're trying to install each and every week. You don't need to have a ton of stuff down there, in my opinion. I think you need to have a few things that you're really, really great at, then another couple of things that you're really good at, and call those plays over and over again. Now, if there's something that's a one-off, I get it, right? Like, this is a play that we can only run one time down here. And if it works, great. If not, we're throwing it out. Like, I understand that. But you should have kind of your red zone mainstays and then the things that you do to attack defenses, or what they do specifically to try to defend you. So almost like a paralysis by analysis thing where you're just trying to do, there's so much that you've got going on that you can't really be great at anything because you're trying to be good at everything.
Yeah, and I think you it's funny you mentioned that having too many toys, I think maybe could be overwhelming, especially that a coaching staff. Last year, you saw Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston both had better red zone numbers. The year before that, it seemed like we were getting in the red zone better. And you got to think, whenever you bring that point up, was it because there was less star power? Did it almost become easier to call the plays? And then you kind of, you're setting up, it's easier to set the players up for success from a play calling standpoint because, like you said, everybody has an identity, everybody has a role. You're not trying to basically use everybody at once, right?
Yeah, I think so. But look, if you have plays that have a number of different options, I'm just gonna like dumb it down as much as possible.
Yeah.
If you've got plays that we call it a progression, but you've got
reads,
options, right? You've got reads, right? You have a read. The defense is going to take you to a certain place based on how they play or how they defend what you're trying to do offensively. If the quarterback is able to get through the progression, then usually we're going to be able to find the right guy. That doesn't mean that somebody's not going to make a play, even if he targets the wrong guy, right? Sometimes you just trust the guy. He throws the ball to Michael Thomas sometimes when there's guys draped all over him because he trusts them. Like, I get that. Or Shaheed is probably not supposed to get the ball on this play, but just because he's fast and I know he can run by this guy, I'm just going to take a chance. Like, I understand that. But in the red zone, everything happens faster. And if you don't get the protection, it's impossible to get through a progression. Like, they work hand in hand. And with the amount of injuries that we're dealing with on the offensive line, it's tough. He obviously has been hit a bunch this season. He's got the shoulder thing going on, which he looks good throwing the football. Like, that's encouraging. Like, it's not, I don't think that the AC joint is going to cause him to become this off-target, terrible quarterback, right? Like, he's found a way to kind of manage it and still be very, very productive throwing the football. But if he can't be comfortable back there at all, then we're going to be in trouble. Like, if he's fidgety, if he doesn't look comfortable, if he's trying to get the ball out way sooner than he should, I mean, the play that comes to mind is the 4th down play to Alvin down there. 4th and 4.
4th and 4, he checks it down. Yeah.
Throws a flat route with nobody in his face. Like, they rush 4. Like, I have the screenshot of it.
Yeah, Olave was open too. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
It's easy to take a screenshot of a play and say, well, look, he's open, right? We don't know if within whatever they were trying to do and how the defense plays. Hey, if the defense plays single high, we start from right to left. Or if the defense plays 2-man or whatever the coverage was, I don't think it was 2-man, but whatever the coverage was, it could have been that he was supposed to start to his right. So if he starts to his right, and Alvin is open, clearly, because they're like, throw it to him, we'll come up and make the tackle before he can get the first down. If he's open, I just think he's got to hang in there a little bit. And if he's got to take some shots to be able to get through the progression to get to the right guy, then so be it. I don't know if he was supposed to read right to left. I don't know if it was a left to right read. I don't know if it was hey, throw the ball to Alvin and let him work his magic. Like, I honestly don't know that. But I think the offensive line's got to be better. I think he's got to be better at hanging in there and taking shots if he has to, and or extending plays with his legs.
Yes,
because he's got the ability to move around a little bit. And I'm not saying he's got to turn into Cam Newton or to Lamar Jackson, but I think C.J. Stroud, I mean, watching him yesterday was like, yeah, the Texans got one now.
Oh, yeah. Ohio State, too. Ohio State quarterback. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He was so comfortable in the pocket. And then when people were in his face, he'd find a little bit of a lane, scoot to his right or spread out to his left, and his eyes are downfield, and he's still trying to find guys. Like, I think Derek can do that. He's more than capable of doing that. And if it presents itself, tuck the ball down, get a couple of yards, slide down, no harm, no foul, but we're still working to stay at least on schedule. You like to stay ahead of the chain, but on schedule to me is perfect. 4 yards a pop. That's all we're asking for. If you're at 3.5 to 4 yards a pop, you're going to get a first down every single time. So staying on schedule, I think, is important, even though we've got big playability with the guys that we have on this offense.
Yeah, and it sucks too because I feel like as soon as something I noticed with Derek Carr, as soon as he leaves the pocket, I feel it in my heart. Okay, that play's dead. Like I just feel it. As soon as he leaves the pocket, I feel like the play is dead. No one's asking for Patrick Mahomes, right? As soon as Patrick Mahomes leaves the pocket, that's when the play's beginning. So no one's asking for that. But like you're saying, you're down there in the red zone. You have to make a play. Drew Brees wasn't a guy that was running out of the pocket, Patrick Mahomes style, but he was able to break down the defense, be quick with his throws, be quick with his reads, and make a play. Like you were saying, it's easy to see from the screenshot standpoint. I stream Madden, right? So I'll have somebody wide open, and my whole comment section's like, "Hey, he was open." So I couldn't imagine real football with real defenders coming at you, right? So it's a lot easier to pick it apart after the fact. But Drew Brees is top 5, all time in the red zone. What was it about him that you feel like he did differently to really create opportunities, even these third down situations where the odds were stacked against the offense, and was still able to execute? Definitely need to see more of that. What was it that Drew Brees you think was bringing to the table?
I just think like the fact that anybody could get the ball on any play.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate for somebody like Marcus Colston or Darren Sproles or Pierre Thomas or Reggie Bush, Jim Pro Bowls, but guys that didn't make Pro Bowls because they kind of had to share the wealth. But great for us.
Yeah,
as guys that aren't the number one guy that still have the ability to get the ball on any given play based on how the defense plays. And Drew it's crazy to watch games now and watch quarterbacks operate and then watch defenses try to defend them. And it's really a game of cat and mouse, and who could out duel the other on any single play. The fact that I played with one of the best ever as far as being able to not just digest the information that he's getting before the snap and as the ball's coming and after the snap, but to be able to execute all of that so quickly and get the ball to whoever's supposed to get the ball on target, on time. And I hate to compare, our current quarterback, Derek Carr, to Drew Brees.
We were spoiled, yes.
That's the thing. You can't expect Drew Brees out of Derek Carr.
Yeah,
none of us can.
Nope.
It's really unfair, and it's you get so used to. And Sean Payton used to always make the analogy you are a longtime McDonald's hamburger eater, and then you get the taste of a great ribeye steak, and you're like, oh man, that's what that's like.
Yeah,
and you don't ever want to go back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the steak back there. Yeah, yeah.
And an elite, top tier, all time great quarterback spoiled us for a very, very long time, and now unfairly, every quarterback that comes after him is going to get compared to him. And I think for this team to be successful, I do not think Derek Carr has to be Drew Brees. I don't think he even has to be close to Drew Brees. I think he's got to play better. I think he's got to play well, and he's got to play consistently well for us to be able to be the type of team that I think that we can be. We've got a defense that has been playing historically great football as far as the points that we're giving up. And we've got an offense that has just not been able to hold up their end of the bargain. And with the pieces that we have, to me, it's inexcusable.
Absolutely.
A lot of that has to fall on coaching. You've got to be able to, one, install the right plays, right? Plays that fit your personnel. And it's not the plays, it's the personnel that should dictate, in my opinion. It's your players that should dictate the plays and not the other way.
Yes.
To not be the plays that dictate which players get to do what. It should be my players' strengths are X, Y, and Z. So I'm going to call these plays. That's what it should be. But I see a lot of similarities in how Pete Carmichael is trying to run his offense in what Sean did with the various personnel groupings, every other play or
emotions.
Play.
Yeah. Yeah.
The shifts in motions, I understand.
Okay.
It's good for your quarterback to gain insight, your skill guys to gain insight. We're motioning across the formation. If somebody's running with that guy, usually it's man-to-man coverage. That's good. You like to have that information ahead of time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But changing personnel groupings every single play to me is unnecessary. We've got a really, really solid group of 3 receivers that can all play. They need to be on the field to make plays. If you want to rotate backs here and there, you can, but Alvin shouldn't be off the field too often, in my opinion, unless he needs a break. Once Jawan Johnson is back, if we're not in any kind of big personnel groups, he should stay off the field. Like, to me, it's almost even predictable, right? Keith Kirkwood comes in the game, and Lynn Bowden comes in the game. They're the only 2 receivers. It's 21 personnel.
Yeah.
We're obviously running the football. We're not throwing the football to those guys, right? Like, that's just it's predictable. It's almost like we're trying to do too much to keep the defense off balance, instead of relying on what we're really good at or where we're really good. And to me, it's really frustrating. I mean, it was fun to play that offense. I wasn't a starter for most of my career, but I had starter-like numbers because we rotated so much. But I feel like this team is built differently than how we were built back then. And, it's just, I don't know that it's something that's a quick and easy fix, because it's almost been a year and a half now, and I feel like Pete Carmichael is who he is. I love the guy. Like, I do feel like he has a lot of offensive knowledge as far as drawing concepts and getting things on paper that look really solid, and you get it working in practice and they're good, but for whatever reason, the timing of his play calls don't seem to be great. And I'm not going to say the quarterback coach relationship isn't great, but I just think at times our quarterbacks and our receivers are not on the same page, and that starts with coaching. Whether they're not being detail oriented enough, whether the reps are run in a mediocre fashion and not in a great fashion. I mean, I know Sean was a stickler for, if something doesn't look right, we're going to run it again. And if it doesn't look right after that, we're going to run it again. If it doesn't look right after that, we're going to run it again. Like that, he was like perfectionist, and we got to make this stuff look great before I can call it in a game. Like, we're not going to run something and it's like, and it worked, but it didn't look the way that I wanted it to. Like, we got to figure out a way for things to be picture perfect during the week, so that when you go into the game, you're able to just play fast and things, usually work out better for you. Because it's true. Like, you play how you practice.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying they're not having great practices and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, but I think a lot of what we see specifically in the red zone, they got to get that figured out, whether that's adding extra red zone periods throughout the week. Generally, your Friday practice is your goal line, short yardage, and red zone day, right? So you don't really run a whole lot of red zone plays throughout the week. Definitely not, we don't practice on Monday, but not Mondays, not Wednesdays, not Thursdays. So maybe they need to start adding periods on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and maybe even an extra period on Friday. It's a shorter practice anyway. Like, if I'm a coach and I know that's a glaring deficiency for us, I'm going to practice it more.
Yeah.
That's the only way. That's the only way you're going to get better at it.
Yep.
And I think that trusting, that if we're able to get more reps in this area, that hopefully you'll start to see the fruits of your labor come game day. So, we've got the guys. I truly believe we've got the personnel. I do think the offensive line's got to play better. And I do think that Derek's got to hang in there a little bit and maybe take some extra shots.
Yeah.
But that's the reality of the quarterback position. Nobody gets out clean and nobody gets out unscathed. It's just a part of being tough and playing the position the right way. You don't want to have to get hit, but the reality is, in order for
you're gonna get hit, yeah,
you're gonna have to get hit.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I spent, 8 years in the Army infantry, and we were always taught you train the way you fight. It's the same thing it's the same exact thing on the football field. And I think a lot of people understand Pete Carmichael's strengths, right? Quality control, player development. You've seen a lot of offensive studs who he scouted and really developed and helped with throughout the way. Marcus Colston, Jari Evans, Zach Strief was the 7th-round pick. You have always been, I think, one of the most underrated recruits of all time, for sure. And I think that's where his strengths have been. It was with Washington, then he went on to be with the Chargers, and then, of course, with the Saints quarterback in quality control. Back when you were playing, though, what type of involvement did he have during the game in terms of play calling? Because I think not a lot of people understand what's different now that Sean's gone and that Pete Carmichael's there now. And I think from a player standpoint, you could probably give a great breakdown of that difference.
Well, you know what? He's very introverted. Like
he is.
He's not a super outgoing guy. He's not boisterous. He's like
from New Hampshire, quiet guy. Yeah,
he is. He's not in front of the meeting room, rah, screaming and yelling. That's just not his personality. But again, like he's an X's and O's guy, and he knew how to draw plays and he knew how to attack defenses. I just think play calling is a different art. Right?
Yeah,
it's not as simple as, oh, well, this guy can draw great plays. He knows how to attack defenses, but why can't he make the right calls in the right time? And I don't think he's trash. I just think that we were spoiled again with Sean.
Yeah.
The way that he was able to call games. Now Pete is having to be compared to Sean every single week. Now we look at Sean, it's not like he's doing great over there.
Yeah.
But which almost makes you start to think like, man, Drew was freaking great.
The Bill Belichick, Tom Brady thing all over again. Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure that it's the same as that, but it kind of starts to look a little bit like that. I do think that Sean was such a great game manager, though, as far as
it's still early
to going, making decisions and things like that. But he's just very, very introverted, and I'm not saying that he can't get it figured out because I don't know.
Yeah,
honestly, I don't know. But I knowing that we've been through now 23 games, with him calling the plays, I don't know if it's going to change. I would love for it to change, but I don't know if it is. And if it doesn't, then it starts to kind of lie on Dennis Allen, Mickey Loomis, the higher ups. All right, now what are we doing? We've got a co-offensive coordinator in Ronald Curry. We don't have to fire anybody.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have to fire anybody. Exactly.
We could just make the switch. RC, we need you to get us going.
Yep.
It's your car now. Here are the keys. You start to dictate the game plans, all the meetings. You're talking to the guys. You use Pete as a resource.
Yep.
And you guys kind of work hand in hand, but you're calling the plays. You develop the main parts of the game plan. These are the things that I like based on my interactions with Derek Carr. We talk about the plays we like, the concepts we like, the balls we like to throw, what guys we want to get the ball to in certain situations, and here's my plan. I think that is going to end up being a change that happens if we don't see change.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think I always said it, back to as soon as kind of Pete Carmichael came into the spotlight here to call plays, I always called, he was the yin and yang. He was the yin, and Sean Payton was the yang with the bang, right? And I feel like they needed each other in that offense. And, of course, Drew Brees kept, held it all together on the field, right? But in terms of coaching, it was always them. And I feel like Dennis Allen's had a really good control. Like, he's been king of that defense. But on the offense, has definitely been, as you said, a group effort. And through that, we're losing pieces who have contributed to that. And now we're losing identity. And you talk about bringing Curry in as an offensive, play caller, and I think he would do phenomenal. I think you look at the last, he called the plays in the last preseason game, right, against the Texans, I believe. And you look at that when Lucas Kroll, tight end, came in with like 100+, a practice squad tight end came with 100+ reception yards. And you look at the, I think it was like 4.2 yards a carry. It's like, oh, wow, that was an identity. We ran that offense through 2 tight end sets, and we got the big guy open in the red zone. And that's basically, that was the identity. And it was one preseason game. And I feel like, you give him the keys to the Ferrari. I think he could do a lot with it. But you have nothing to lose in terms of that. But if he doesn't get moved into that spot, if there isn't a change, if you start looking at Mickey Loomis and Dennis Allen, what type of situation do you have there? Because, Dennis Allen's been he's been a defensive-minded genius, right, for us. And I don't think it's as easy as, hey, can you go back to being DC and we'll bring in another? It's not that easy. So what are your thoughts on that?
It all starts and ends with Dennis Allen.
Yeah,
yeah,
like true.
He is the head coach, and he could have the number one defense in the league, but if we're not winning games, he's not going to keep a job.
Yeah,
right. Like you don't say, hey, we're looking for a new head coach, but we want you to be.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
stay around.
Well, that's what fans are saying exactly.
No, because if I'm a head coach, I want my defensive coordinator. I want to bring my guy in. I'm not unless it's, somebody that was previously on the staff before. But then again, you're just recycling parts over and over again. And then what would even be the point of trying to keep DA as your defensive coordinator? You might as well keep him as your head coach and then bring in a new offensive coordinator in the offseason.
Right.
If that's what your plan is, so I just think if things don't change, we're not scoring more points. Obviously, we know we can move the ball, but if we're not scoring points and we're losing games, somebody's gonna have to fall on the sword per se. It's going to have to be somebody's fault, and then we have to make a change. And I've heard fans say, "Oh, bring in John Gruden. He understands the offense. He knows the quarterback." Well, from experience, I know that changing coordinators and or offenses in the middle of the season is super hard. We did it in Detroit my last year in 2015. Joe Lombardi, longtime Saints coach, we were running the Saints offense, but we stunk. We were like 1-5 or 1-6 early in the season. He gets fired. Our quarterback coach, Jim Bob Cooter, ends up being named the new offensive coordinator. And slowly but surely, we kind of changed our offense, which was weird and hard. But he was in-house. So he already spoke the same language as us, right? So it wasn't like we had this foreigner come in who is not familiar with the things that we're doing. He has his own system. Like Jim Bob had his own system, and he started to kind of implement it little by little. And we kind of slowly dwindled down the old Saints offense. So, and just doing that was hard. So I know, look, it's not impossible. They're all pros, right? If somebody came in and said, hey, we're going to run 12 plays this week, we're going to learn these 12 plays, I know they can handle it. But I just don't see it as a realistic option. We have people in-house, and even if it's not RC, there are other guys, I guess, that they could try to see, like a Doug Marrone, former head coach, former offensive coordinator. But I think it should be RC, young, hungry, a guy that's never been full-time in that position before. And I believe somebody that's trying to progress in his career. In order to progress in the career as an offensive guy, you got to become an offensive coordinator at some point, and then that could potentially lead to being a head coach. So, and I think he's well aware of what's going on around him.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. What is like? He's got to know, right?
Yeah, no, and I think, and I don't even know if there's conversations. I don't know. If he's like, hey, RC, be ready.
Yeah.
Coaches do that to players all the time. Like, hey, bro, be ready. If it happens again,
yeah.
I think he's not an idiot. I don't know if he's reading press clippings. I don't know if he's on social media seeing what all the fans are saying, but I know that he's got to be frustrated with what the offense is being able or not being able to do or score. I think he, in his mind, is preparing himself for it to happen. Now, whether it happens or not, that's out of his control. But I think if it does happen, he'll be prepared for it. And I think we'll see a different iteration of this team and hopefully one that's able to find the end zone a lot more regularly than we are now.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like people forget that Pete Carmichael, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't even really want the job at first, right? Like he wasn't really, I remember they were looking for a new offensive coordinator and, PC wasn't really super excited to kind of jump into that role. So, as soon as that happened, that kind of sent off kind of bad vibes. And then, ever since then, they definitely had to have been having these conversations ever since then about some type of backup plan. And hopefully RC could be that backup plan. I think, I think it comes down to Mickey Loomis, right? Making the right calls at the right time. But how do players respond to this type of drama, to this type of noise, especially amongst the coaching staff? Because, you have, there was something that came out about Kamara on the sidelines with Jameis. He came out and addressed it. Michael Thomas coming out defending the coaching staff, say, hey, it's on the players. And, obviously you want to be professional. But from a player standpoint, how do you typically see these type of things handled when there's this type of friction between coaches and the fan base and things like that?
Well, I can't tell you that there's friction amongst the coaches, right?
Yeah.
I'm not in the locker room. The media can say whatever they want, but nobody truly knows what's going on in that building other than the people that are in that building.
That's true. You know what? You're 100% right. Yeah, absolutely.
There's been plenty of situations on sidelines that look like one thing that are something completely unrelated to what anybody even thinks, and to me, seeing those types of situations on the sideline are good things because it means people care and it means that somebody is trying to hold somebody else accountable.
Yep.
Right. Like I remember Drew rarely got mad at anybody, but I remember the one time that he flipped out on Jeremy Shockey, and it was hard to say things to Jeremy Shockey, but I was just like, whoa. But to me, it meant, whoa, he cares a lot. He's holding him accountable. And that is what you want from your team. That's what you want from your leaders. And I can't speak to the coaching friction because I don't know if that's what's happening. I would say there's probably coaching frustration as far as what we see on paper and what is actually materializing on Sundays.
Yep.
But I can't sit here and tell you that this guy wants to do this and this guy is pissed off at him. Like I honestly don't know. But I just think that as players, you do your job and you do it as best as you can, and you do everything that you can to make sure that you're prepared and you're taking care of your body, and you worry about the things that you can control. You can't worry about the other stuff that's happening around you.
How often were you seeing Drew Brees change plays at a line of scrimmage in comparison to maybe what you're seeing from Derek Carr? Definitely, it's early, so it's hard to say. Like everybody's trying to understand each other and learn each other's strengths and weaknesses. But how do you see that comparison in terms of him changing plays at line of scrimmage and his strength with that, and how often it happened versus what Derek Carr's doing?
Well, look, in the offense, there is freedom for a quarterback to be able to scratch a play and call something else. That didn't happen a lot. You a lot of times in this offense, there are two plays called in the huddle. If the defense runs this, we're going to stick with the first thing. If they run something else, we're going to kill it or alert it. That you see an alert.
Yeah.
To the second play, right? I don't consider that changing the play. What I consider changing the play is the coordinator calls a play in, quarterback gets to the line, is like,
oh, yeah.
Here's our play. That was like brown, or black, and then he called a play. That rarely happens.
Okay.
A lot of times what we're seeing is the defense is playing this, so we're going to run play B instead of play A. But the quarterback also has the ability to say, these are the plays that are called. I like my matchup over here. I'm just going to give this guy a signal, and I'm going to throw it to him. Like, he's got the ability to do that. We don't see a lot of that. I watch a lot of teams or like old school Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers. They'd have run plays called. He would like Devontae Adams over here against this guy. He'd just throw him a quick slant. He'd get 9 yards. Like little things like that. Let's just throw a screen every now and again. Like things that can help you, easy completions that basically become an extension of your running game so that you're not in 1st and 10. We're in base personnel, 2 backs, 1 tight end, 2 receivers, and we're trying to run the football. Then we get a loss of 2. So now we're in 2nd and 12. I just think there's a lot of different ways that we can make our job, their job. They can make their job a lot easier. And to me, it always feels so difficult watching from afar.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And for like when it comes to like Dennis Allen, right? So, outside of the whole, offense, the offensive coordinator thing, how do you feel he's done as a head coach? Because I think I've been a huge fan of offseason Dennis Allen. I am a huge fan of offseason Dennis Allen, and I feel like the type of moves he definitely has a voice in the Saints are done some great things in terms of shuffling, some roster moves in the offseason. And I've honestly been a fan of his on-the-field calls. I think there's been, outside of maybe some timeouts that could have been used. Once again, it's easy. Hindsight's 20/20. It's easy to say from afar. But I've been mostly satisfied with him. How do you feel about Dennis Allen and maybe how he's kind of handled another year of backlash with the media and, on the field?
Well, he's smart. He's been around the block, right? So
Yeah.
He understands frustration, and specifically with the local media. He understands, like, he can only call the defense, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't know the offense. He can't call the offense. He can't do both. I feel like he's done a decent job, but again, it starts with him. So if our offense can't score points and he's not making any changes, then it's still going to essentially be his fault if we can't score points, right? If he's not making any adjustments, hey, this guy keeps holding. Well, he did make a change, right? He took Penning out. Penning didn't start. James Hurst started and then got hurt. So then we're right back with Penning again. And right away, he gets 2 penalties. He has a holding and a tripping penalty. We lead the league in holding penalties on offense and pass interference penalties on defense. That's coaching.
That's coaching. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's like the penalty thing is bad enough when you have a great team. Like, oh man, we could be even better. But when your team is underperforming, and then you start to look at the penalties, it's a lack of discipline, it's a lack of technique, and I think it's a lack of there being pressure on guys. Hey, if you keep doing this, we're going to replace you. Now, obviously, that situation happened, and it James Hurst got hurt, so Penning was right back in there. But you got to be able to. I mean, we have so much talent on this team. We've got to be more disciplined. We've got to rely on our technique. And I know that the guys are practicing technique because I've been over there at the facility. I've seen them do it. It's just a matter of, putting it together for the games. And, the lack of discipline starts with the head coach.
You think it could also be, do you think there's any positional issues in terms of positional coaching at the offensive line? I know we lost Zach Strief, and then, they brought in Jari. Alev Jari brought in Doug Marrone to come back on the offensive line. Do you think that could be there too? Because I feel like maybe Ramczyk's even having a little bit of struggle. Like there's just, overall, is a lot of miscommunication amongst the offensive line. Do you think it's a player level? I mean, I understand it's positional coaching and things like that, but what do you really boil it down to? Because it's not a whole lot of new faces this year versus the last few seasons. There's been inconsistency, but nothing like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's frustrating when you have invested so heavily.
Oh, so heavily.
Up there.
Same thing with pass rushers every year. Yeah. Yeah.
It's all first and second round picks, and all but Penning are on their second contracts now. So once you've got guys that are making the type of money that they make and they aren't performing to that type of standard, it's frustrating. It's disappointing. Now, I mean, look, Ramczyk isn't 23 anymore. At some point, as great as he's been for all these years, at some point, like, Father Time starts to take its toll. His health and injuries start to take their toll, and you start to see a little bit of a regression. Now, that's not to say that he can't still be an ass kicker, right? Like, I mean, he's got the ability, and we've seen it. It's Andrews P, a guy that was benched and then was thrust back in, and then got hurt again. I mean, it's been a shuffle of guys up there. But if I could say one thing about the whole group is that it's been inconsistent. I don't know. I mean, it's tough to break down the offensive line, not being an offensive line expert. I would say that I think they're getting really good coaching, especially from Jari, who was, obviously played in this offense and one of the all-time great offensive guards of all time. At least I think he'll be a Hall of Famer someday. He should be.
Oh yeah.
But it's hard when you compare the current guys to guys that are all-time great.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that they haven't kind of gelled the way that they should. But again, we're sitting at 3-3. We're not Carolina being 0-6. We're not, one of these teams that doesn't have a chance. Like I truly think that we've got the goods. We've just got to figure it out and start to put it all together, on game days.
Oh, yeah, when we have guys healthy, the defense can't hold it down every single play. I know people get frustrated with missed tackles here and there, but at the same time, the defense can only do so much. I think they've been great. I think, luckily everybody in the division lost this week, so that's always helpful. That's the silver lining, and that's what I've been trying to tell people. Like, hey, look, the Bucs, it was up to the Bucs in that Lions game. That was going to really dictate my mood for the week, and Lions be able to come out and get the win right there. That's huge for the division. It's up for grabs, but then, outside of just getting it together to finish out and win the division, it's also postseason once you get in there and trying to be competitive. And I won't take up too much of your time. I do appreciate it, but I did have one quick question for you. When did you know that there was going to be an onside kick in Super Bowl 44? When did you know that it was going to happen?
He said it, there's 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, right? So he said we're going to run an onside kick basically that whole 2 weeks.
2 weeks? He did it for 2 weeks. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
I still think that most of the guys were kind of like, whatever.
Yeah.
You go into every week with at least one onside kick, with at least one punt fake, or some kind of trick play, gadget play on special teams, right? But it's rare that you run. So going into the Super Bowl, that was kind of like, okay, yeah, we're going to practice this. He's like, we're going to run it. We're going to run it. We're going to run it. But nobody really knew that we were going to run it until halftime. When he came in and he said, okay, we're starting the second half with onside.
Like in the locker room, that's what he like at the half. Oh, wow, yeah.
Hey, pay attention now. One quick thing. We're going to start this half kicking off. All right, ambush. You recover it, right? I don't want this thing going out of bounds. Now listen, man. Let's go get this game.
That was the first thing he said to us at halftime, and we're like, "Oh, okay,
yeah, hell yeah, absolutely, yeah.
We're here to win this game. Like, we're not gonna stay out here and play on our gills and try to figure out what's going on and play catch up. Like, we're gonna be aggressive. We're gonna play to win." And that was definitely, it was kind of like one of those like goosebump moments. Like, he came in and said it, and everybody's like, "Oh, like let's go,
yeah,
let's do this." So yeah, like you usually think during the week, like, yeah, he's probably not going to call this, but you still practice it the entire time, but we did not know until halftime.
What was the feelings like? Honestly, because I feel like, I was at home, like, my fingertips were obviously numb, so I could imagine you on the sideline, like, in the anticipation. You got to be confident, right? You got to go in like ready for it. But where were you at emotionally? Whenever that whistle got blown and they went for that onside kick.
There's two parts of it, right? One, you got to be an actor.
Got to be an actor. Yeah.
You don't want to tip your hand, right? You don't want them to know that something is up. Like, everybody's on the sideline acting funny, or everybody on the sideline is 10 yards away. Like, everybody's looking like after a lot. Like, no, you couldn't do that. So you got to be an actor first, and then when it happens, it's like everybody's like,
Let's go this way. I want to go this way.
A lot of teams, when they play the Colts, they like to defer just so they don't have to face this situation where Peyton Manning gets the football in the second half after he's gone in, and look at all those pictures.
Onside kick to start the second half, and the ball bounces off the hands of the Colts, and it looks like the Saints have it for a second.
We got it.
They're still fighting for it. No indication as yet.
"Hey, we got the ball." I think we got it. And then nobody really knew. Like, everybody's like, "Point, Rex, we got it. But nobody does until obviously the referee gets up and he's like, first down saves, and then it's like, we're gonna win this game. That was like, confidence boost. I think that propelled us throughout the rest of that game. And as you saw shortly after that, Drew got in a freaking zone.
And the defense too. Yeah.
The defense started making plays and so it was just one of the most awesome memories of my life for sure, and especially at football.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that was my next question. You had already answered. It's just like that type of mentality, confidence wise, like, okay, well, God said it. We already going to win this game, and we got the onside kick, so we're meant to be. You know what I mean? That's kind of definitely where I would be feeling. And the energy obviously was contagious, and definitely I can imagine it being a great moment. Where can everybody catch you next, Lance?
So obviously, always on social media at Lance Moore 16, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. I think we're actually the Moore family on TikTok. But I will be in New Orleans for the game this week against the Jags. I'll be on live pre and post for game shows with WDSU, and looking forward to hopefully righting the ship this week. This is a big game. Obviously, we're trying to stay on pace as far as the division goes, but really just a big confidence game, and knowing that we've got a stretch of games here that should all be winnable games. But if we don't play well, disaster is there. So yeah, looking forward to that, and hopefully being able to see and connect with a bunch of fans for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll definitely be looking forward to seeing you out there. And the final question I always ask everybody is, what is it that makes New Orleans the city, the New Orleans Saints culture? What you played for multiple organizations, what makes it unique? What makes it special? I love to hear everybody's answer to that.
The people.
Amen.
People. The people. I mean, that's just it's. I played. So I started with Cleveland. We have great fans. Then to New Orleans, obviously we know the best fans. To Pittsburgh, great fans. To Detroit, great
loyal fan.
Yeah. I mean they took over the stadium in Tampa yesterday. So like they've got great fans. So I'm proud of organizations that have great fans. There is nothing like the Who Dat Nation. And to me, how I describe that the best is everywhere you go, whoever you run into, it is like a feeling of family. It's not just football to the people, even though the games are important. Like they truly make you feel like you are a part of their family. You are welcome. We're all one in it together. Like it is. Like, I mean, I love the city. I love the culture. I love the food. But to me, my favorite part is the people.
Definitely. That's, me and Steph Williams, she was Saints Fan of the Year a couple years ago. We run a Facebook group called The Nation. And the caption right there is family. That's exactly what it's about. It's the people through. Well, thanks again for your time today, Lance. It's much appreciated, man. We can't wait to see you on TV this Thursday, but hopefully we can't wait to see you talk about this win on Thursday night. That's what we hope we'll hear you talk about is a huge primetime win against Jacksonville. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it, and we'll be talking to you next time.
Play on special teams, right? But it's rare that you run. So going into the Super Bowl, that was kind of like, okay, yeah, we're going to practice this. He's like, we're going to run it. We're going to run it. We're going to run it. But nobody really knew that we were going to run it until halftime. When he came in and he said, okay, we're starting the second half with onside.
Like in the locker room, that's what he like at the half. Oh, wow. Yeah.
That was the first thing he said to us at halftime. And we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Hell yeah. 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 Absolutely. Yeah.
We're here to win this game. Like we're not going to stay out here and play on our heels and try to figure out what's going on and play catch up. Like we're going to be aggressive. We're going to play to win. And that was definitely, it was kind of like one of those like goosebump moments. Like he came in and said it and everybody's like, oh, like, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do this. So yeah, like you usually think during the week, like, yeah, he's probably not going to call this, but you still practice it the entire time, but, we did not know until halftime.
What was the feelings like? Honestly, because I feel like, I was at home, like, my fingertips were obviously numb, so I couldn't imagine what it's like for you on the sideline. Like I was in fifth grade. I couldn't imagine you on the sideline, like in the anticipation. You got to be confident, right? You got to go in like ready for it. But where were you at emotionally? Whenever that whistle got blown and they went for that onside kick.
There's two parts of it, right? One, you got to be an actor.
Got to be an actor. Yeah.
You don't want to tip your hand, right? You don't want them to know that something is up. Like everybody's on the sideline acting funny, or everybody on the sideline is 10 yards away. Like everybody's looking like at the line. Like no, you couldn't do that. So you got to be an actor first, and then when it happens, it's like everybody's like, I think we got it. And then nobody really knew. Like everybody's like pointing in the direction. We got it. But nobody knows until obviously the referee gets up and he's like, first down saves. And then it's like, we're going to win this game. That was like, confidence boost. I think that propelled us throughout the rest of that game. And as you saw shortly after that, Drew got in a freaking zone.
And the defense too. Yeah.
The defense started making plays and so yeah. I mean, it was just one of the most awesome memories of my life for sure, and especially in football.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that was my next question. You had already answered. It's just like that type of mentality, confidence wise. Like, okay, well, God said it. We already going to win this game, and we got the onside kick, so we're meant to be. You know what I mean? That's kind of definitely where I would be feeling. And the energy obviously was contagious. And where can everybody catch you next, Lance?
So obviously, always on social media at Lance Moore 16, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. I think we're actually the Moore family on TikTok. But I will be in New Orleans for the game this week against the Jags. I'll be on live pre and post for game shows with WDSU, and looking forward to hopefully righting the ship this week. This is a big game. Obviously, we're trying to stay on pace as far as the division goes. But really, just a big confidence game, and knowing that we've got a stretch of games here that should all be winnable games. But if we don't play well, disaster is there. So yeah, looking forward to that, and hopefully being able to see and connect with a bunch of fans for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll definitely be looking forward to seeing you out there. And the final question I always ask everybody is, what is it that makes New Orleans the city, the New Orleans Saints culture? What you played for multiple organizations, what makes it unique? What makes it special? I love to hear everybody's answer to that.
The people.
Amen.
The people. I mean, that's just it's. I played. So I started with Cleveland. We have great fans. Then to New Orleans, obviously we know the best fans. To Pittsburgh, great fans. To Detroit, great
loyal fan.
Yeah. I mean they took over the stadium in Tampa yesterday. So they've got great fans. So I'm proud of organizations that have great fans. There is nothing like the Who Dat Nation. And to me, how I describe that the best is everywhere you go, whoever you run into, it is like a feeling of family. It's not just football to the people, even though the games are important. Like, they truly make you feel like you are a part of their family. Welcome. We're all one in it together. Like, it is. Like, I mean, I love the city. I love the culture. I love the food. But to me, my favorite part is the people.
Definitely. That's, me and Steph Williams, she was Saints Fan of the Year a couple years ago. We run a Facebook group called The Nation. And the caption right there is family. That's exactly what it's about. It's the people through. Well, thanks again for your time today, Lance. It's much appreciated, man. We can't wait to see you on TV this Thursday, but hopefully we can't wait to see you talk about this win on Thursday night. That's what we hope we'll hear you talk about is a huge primetime win against Jacksonville. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it, and we'll be talking to you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Hit that like if you haven't already. Look, we got lots more content coming to you all season long, including more special guests, more post-game streams, more halftime streams that are exclusively available over on Facebook. We got a lot coming at you. But until then, stay safe, be kind to one another, and as always, who dat, we dat, believe that. Let's go.
Here we come.